For the first time in my entire life, I feel old. I've never felt old before, ever. I've always actually felt like younger than my age, pretty much my entire life. I think a big reason was because I was always the youngest in my family. So, like any type of family events or like group events, I was always just like way significantly younger than everyone. I never really had any relatives that were like my age at all. I grew up with two older brothers. My brothers were 7 and 10 years older than me. And then I only have three cousins. I have a very small family, unfortunately. And all of them are way older than me. Like one of my cousins is like, I don't know, probably in his like late 30s now. Maybe even four now, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, all of my cousins were older than me and they're all boys as well. So I was always just kind of like the younger one that was like getting dragged along, and everyone would like kind of dote on me because you're like, oh my god, you're like the cute little baby. But I didn't really have any like equals or peers. I felt like I was always just the little kid that everyone took everywhere. And same with like, I don't know, like sports teams, I can always remember being like the youngest one. And like any type of like weird activity that my mom would sign me up for, or like, I don't know, just anything, I always remember being like the youngest one and always feeling like young. And so my whole life, I've always grown up feeling like way younger than everybody. And also I've been told a lot that I look younger than my age. Like, I don't know, I've just had so many instances where people, I don't know, like try to guess my age, or if I'm at a restaurant, they ID me, they're like, oh my god, you look like you're like 16. I have been asked not once, but twice with two different guys that I've been dating. One of them, James, my current boyfriend, and one of them, one of my exes, if I was their daughter. And like James and I are literally like 3 years apart, and then the other guy I was dating was also 3 years apart. So I'm like, did they look that much older, or is it just me that looks like literally a child? But anyways, I didn't feel old until after COVID, like until after kind of lockdown and everything opened up again. That was the first time I felt old, and I'll tell you why. And I think that for those of us who experienced COVID in our 20s, especially like our early 20s, it's just like nothing else, no one else in any other generation, I feel like, will have the same experience, because COVID obviously impacted all of our lives. But I feel like, I don't know, if you were in high school, it obviously would impact your life differently. I low-key wish that COVID happened when I was in high school, just because I hated school, and I would have loved nothing more than to not have to go and just be able to stay home, like not have to go to any of the like senior events and stuff. I was not very school spirited, but I also didn't have that many friends, so that's probably why. Anyways, so let me paint the picture for you. Essentially, pre-COVID, I was 21, 22, I think. I think I was, yeah, well, obviously I was all those ages, but I think I was 22 when COVID happened. So very, very fresh, like early 20s. Obviously I live in the United States, so like, you hit 21 years old and you can finally go out. I had just met James. I think we had been together like a year at that point when COVID hit. And like James lived in PB. If you're familiar with San Diego, PB, like Pacific Beach, is the party area, like where all the bars are. And so James was living in PB and I was dating him, and we were going out all the time. Like me and all of his friends and his roommates and my friends were going out to the bars. And obviously I'm like a 21/22-year-old, so I am like one of the youngest people out there, except for those with fake IDs. But for the most part, most of the people out there are in their 20s, but out of all of like James's friend groups and stuff, like I was the youngest one in the group pretty much, and also like one of the younger ones out. And it was like this new fresh feeling, and I was like, oh my god, like I have my whole life ahead of me, like it's amazing. I'm this like young carefree 22-year-old. And then COVID happened, obviously, and it felt like time stopped during COVID. Like, I don't know about you guys, but it felt like time just sort of paused. Like, I didn't feel like I was aging during that time, because it just felt like life wasn't really real. Like, we were just kind of going through the motions. Like, okay, like I celebrated my birthdays, but I didn't really feel like I was gaining any age or experience, especially because, we're not really doing anything. I did try to make the most of it, I will say that, but like, I don't know, it's just like I felt like I was still this 22-year-old, even though I had literally aged 2 years by the time COVID ended. And so COVID ends, and then, things start to open back up again, and we finally go out again for the first time in like pretty much 2 years. And all of a sudden, I'm a 24-year-old. Not that that's old at all by any means. It's still very young. But all of a sudden, I was this 24-year-old, and I was like looking at all of these 21-year-olds who had basically turned 21 during COVID, had never been out before in their lives. maybe they have, I don't know. But like, you know, all of these people who like had turned 21 during COVID had never gone out before. So there's all these young people flocking to the bars. And it was just such a weird, like, almost, I don't really know, like, revelation kind of, where I was, or like epiphany, where I was just like, oh shit, like, I'm not those people anymore. Like, I used to be that, and it felt like it was just yesterday, but now it's not, and now I'm all of a sudden this 24-year-old person, and it made me feel insecure in a way, because for one, I am very bad at comparing myself to people, and I try very hard not to, but it's really hard when you see people younger than you, or even people your own age, and you're like, ooh, like, they're doing so much more than me, or like, they're so much more successful than me. And so I think most of it has to do with comparison, to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, I do firmly believe that age is just a number. Like, you know, age does not mean anything in the real world. Like, imagine if we didn't even like keep track of our birthdays or anything. You wouldn't even know how old you were. You would have no idea. Some people act older than they are. Some people act younger than they are. Some people look older than they are. Some people look younger than they are. You know, age, it doesn't mean anything. But I feel like your 20s is definitely the first time when people realize or feel old. And obviously I don't mean old as in like old, like we're not senior citizens, we're literally in our 20s, and I already know people like in their 30s or 40, anyone right now listening to this is probably like, you're stupid, like you're in your 20s, you're not old. But it's like, I feel like your early 20s are almost just like an extension of your teenage years in a way, where you're like still just kind of going through the motions. Like, okay, you might have a little bit more money, maybe a little bit more independence, maybe you've moved out of your house, whatever, but you don't really feel like this adult yet. And when it finally hits you that like, oh shit, I'm actually like an actual adult, like I'm really an adult, like I'm in control of my life. I think that's the realization where you're like, oh shit, I'm actually in control of my life now. There's no one really telling you what to do anymore. Like, once you hit that kind of point, like, I feel like early 20s, like, if you're still living at home or, like, you're still going to college, it's like, okay, there's certain things you kind of have to do, you know, like, you have some control, but, like, there's still some things that are, like, being controlled for you. Whereas I feel like when you hit this certain age, you're like, I can't really get away with certain things anymore. Like, I'm actually a proper, fully grown adult human being. I'm 25 now, so, like, my brain is, you know, pretty much fully developed at this point. So I have no more excuses, right? Like, I am an actual adult. And I also think that age in your 20s is such a weird thing, because everyone in their 20s is at a different stage in their life. Like, you could be 20, like, okay, for example, my brother, he got married when he was 21. When I was 21, I was going out to the bars every night and being debaucherous, as one should when they're 21, you know, whatever. But, like, he got married when he was 21, bought a house, settled down. He has 3 kids. Their 4th is on the way. And I'm out here at 25, like, in a serious relationship, but don't own a house, don't really know what I'm doing, definitely not planning on having kids at all, or at least not anytime soon, TBD. And a lot of people that I went to school with, a lot of people even younger than me, are married with kids. And then one of my friends, who's the same age as me, is going to school. She got her associates, and now she like transferred to college, so she's still in college. There's a lot of people still doing like post-grad stuff, you know, people pursuing their careers. A lot of my other friends are like fully into their careers. A lot of my friends are traveling. Like, everyone's just in a different stage, and it's so weird because, you know, when you're a teenager, everyone's kind of like living the same life. You're a 16-year-old, you're going to high school, we're all doing the same shit, you know, we're doing our homework, we're maybe going to parties, I don't know, but getting our licenses, still living at home, obviously, like, all that stuff. But then when you're in your 20s, everyone goes all of these different paths, and there's so many different paths you can take, and I think that's what gets really overwhelming, is that you're never going to know what the right path is. And it's crazy how different your life would be if you were to take one of these other paths. Like, imagine if, I don't know, I had gone to college, for example. Like, I didn't go to college. My life would be so significantly different if I had gone to school. Like, I would have an entirely different friend group. I'd probably have more friends, TBH, but I might be doing a career. Maybe I wouldn't. I don't know. Who knows what I would have gotten my degree in, that too. I might still be living wherever I'd gone to school. Like, I might be married. Who knows? Like, life is wild, and there are so many endless possibilities. And yeah, you never know what the right one is to decide, but you gotta just kind of go for it. Another thing about feeling old, when I say I feel old, I don't mean I feel like physically old. Like I don't feel like, I don't know how to say this. Like, and I also don't feel mentally old either. Like I don't feel like my age, even though 25 is still young. I still feel like I'm like this young person that's still figuring their shit out. But I feel old in the sense that my age doesn't feel like how it's supposed to. I don't know. I feel like I'm doing a really bad job of explaining this, but I feel like 25 is old, and I know it's not. And I think, like I said, comparison is a huge thing. But I think another thing is because my career is pretty much all on social media, and there's like 16-year-olds on social media on TikTok who are like popping off, like going viral, and richer than me and more successful than me, however you want to define success. And obviously this is just me, like, comparing myself. Like, who's to say they are more successful, but followers doesn't really mean anything. But because that's like kind of where my career is in, or that is where my career is, it does kind of matter. I don't know. And I think because like social media is kind of like, you would think of it as more of like younger people, sometimes I feel like I'm becoming more irrelevant as I age. And I know that's stupid and that's bullshit. It's not true. But here's where I'm gonna get to my next point, is being a woman on social media. Like, aging as a woman is so much different than aging as a man, because in our society, the older a woman gets, the less value she has, mostly based on male's perspective, but because we live in a patriarchal society essentially, it does genuinely play a huge role. And I feel like when men age, it's like, oh, they're gaining like maturity and wisdom, and a lot of them even become more desirable because maybe they're more successful, they're more mature, because oh my god, it takes men forever to mature. Some of them never do, to be honest, but they're more desirable as they age in a way. Whereas for women, it's the opposite. And it's obviously stupid and not true, but that's just kind of the way it is. And even though I don't want to buy into it, it's really, really hard not to. And so it's like, I feel like my value is declining. And I hate saying that because it's stupid. And I know it isn't true. Like, I know it in my heart that it's not true. But it just feels like I'm 25 now and like it's only down from here, which is not true. Like, I know it isn't, but I'm just expressing like how I sometimes feel. And I'm hoping I'm not the only one, and I'm sure I'm not, especially for my ladies out there. I haven't noticed like significant physical changes or anything. Like, I'll see a wrinkle here and there, but I feel like they're a lot more subtle, and I feel like that's almost worse, because sometimes you're just like, do I look older? And I'm starting to get ID'd more, which never used to happen. Starting to get ID'd less, sorry, which never used to happen. Like, and I don't know, it's like weird that it used to bother me when people thought I was younger than I am, and now I wish that people still thought I was young, which is dumb because it's just like, it doesn't matter at all. I feel like there's just like this weird sense of nostalgia as you get older, and I feel like 25 is the age when you're like, oh shit, I'm not in my like early 20s anymore. Like, whenever there's like surveys or like polls or whatever where you have to pick your age, it's always been like 18 to 24 is one bracket, and then 25 to 30 is another, and I'm like, oh no, I made it to the second bracket now. I'm in like the post early 20s. Yeah, I feel like I had this weird realization when I started to feel old or whatever, when I had that little revelation of mine. It's like I felt like my adolescence was dead. Like, I was so carefree and like young and wild, and it's like this mourning over my adolescence, even though I am still young. But I almost feel like I'm not allowed to act like that anymore, because now I'm a big old grown-up adult, and I gotta act like it. Gotta get my shit together. But I'm also here to tell you, and as a reminder to myself as well, that you don't need to have your shit together at all, actually, because most of us don't have it together. And even the things you see on social media, like people who look like they have it all together, no one has it all together, And I feel like I can even come across that way, like with my little morning routines and going to the gym and traveling, whatever. I'm just gonna be so for real with you guys. I had a mental breakdown this morning at the ripe age of 25 in a public gym. In a public gym, I cried, and not my proudest moment. And you know why I cried? I cried because I spent money on these microphones so that I'm like trying to make fitness videos, right? Like I want to share my fitness journey. And it's something I am passionate about, and I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and there's a lot of barriers I have broken through in terms of like my gym anxiety and just filming in the gym in general. But my next step was I wanted to do the mic'd up videos where you have a microphone, so you're talking through the videos, which is another step more than just filming. Because when I'm just filming and I have my headphones on and I'm listening to music, I just pretend like other people don't exist. But when I have my microphones on, I'm speaking. First of all, I feel like I look crazy because I'm speaking and I'm not talking to anyone. And like, I want to not care what people think, because hello, I'm 25, why should I care? Like, it doesn't matter. I've reached the point where I'm like, why does it matter what these random people think of me? And 90% of them aren't thinking about me. In fact, most of them aren't at all. Like, no one's looking at me or thinking about me, and even if they are, like, why does it matter? But anyways, I had a little mentee bee in the gym where I started crying because I just felt like a failure. And I was like thinking about all these other fitness influencers on Instagram and people that I follow on TikTok where they do these mic'd up videos, they're filming in the gym, they just seem so confident and sure of themselves. And I just feel like they have their shit together, like they have really high quality camera. I cannot figure out for the life of me like how to make my camera quality look better, if I need to get a new lens, if I need to get a new camera, I don't know. I've been figuring this shit out all on my own for the longest time, like just all the social media stuff. Like, I'm not a technologically inept person. I am technologically inept. That's what I'm trying to say. It's just like, I've literally been like teaching myself this, and I don't know, I had a little mentee bee because I was like, damn, I bought these microphones, they're like $200. I got the whole setup. I already freaked out yesterday because I realized I didn't have the cord I needed to film on my phone. So I'm filming on my camera, which to me is more scary in the gym, because I'm like, if you pull out your phone and you're filming, people are like, okay, whatever. But if you pull out a camera, people are like, is she having like a photo shoot in here? And my camera's not big or bulky, but anyways, these people next to me, I was fine with the filming part. It was more the microphone part, like talking. The girl next to me who was working out had her headphones in, so I was like, okay, whatever. And there's music playing, like, I didn't worry. But then there's these two guys next to me who are having a conversation, like hanging out together, like right next to me, and they didn't have headphones in, and I was like, I cannot like be speaking right now because they're gonna hear everything I'm saying. And long story short, James and I are leaving soon, so I feel like I have like a time pressure on when I need to do this, because I'm at my parents' house going to their hometown gym. So I feel like I have this pressure to do this. And I was literally sitting in the gym crying, and I was like, I can't believe I'm a 25-year-old woman bawling my eyes out in the gym right now in a public gym. And James was there too. And, you know, everything's fine. People cry. Adults cry. It's fine to cry. We should cry every now and then. But anyways, I just felt a little embarrassed. So just in case you need a reminder that I don't have my shit together either, there you go. I didn't even want to do this podcast, and that's why I look a little, well, if you're watching the video version of this, I look a little crusty. But anyways, we're doing the podcast, which is another goal that I had, so at least we're doing that. Okay, this is also another thing that, like, it feels weird to bring up, but I know, unfortunately, I know that a lot of you guys are gonna understand what I'm trying to say. So, remember how I was talking about, you know, women and men aging differently, and like how I feel like I've lost my desirability? Look, hear me out. I'm in a long-term relationship, right? And I love my boyfriend, and I don't enjoy unwanted male attention. But it is very, very weird and very telling and very creepy how I got more male attention when I was a 16-year-old minor, and like unwanted attention from like older guys, like not even like just other 16-year-old guys, like older men, than I do now as a 25-year-old, when you would think, oh, she's an adult, she's mature, she's smart, she's wise now, she has experience. But no, not, and like I'm not complaining, like I don't want to, but it does make you think, that's a little weird. And you know, that's a topic for a whole other story, because that's basically going down the rabbit hole of men being creeps, and anyways. But it does make you feel insecure as a woman. Not just that, but like, I don't, like, even when I used to go to the bars, I felt like as a 21-year-old, like, guys would approach me more, and now that I'm 25, it doesn't happen as often. And even though I feel like I don't look that different and look like I've aged that much, I'm like, have I? And that's not on me, right? That's on them, because what is wrong with you? But anyways, it does make me feel insecure, because I'm like, am I getting uglier as I'm aging? Like, am I irrelevant? Am I getting more irrelevant? Am I getting uglier? Am I getting further and further away from my goals now because I'm older and I haven't accomplished some of the things that I wanted to, when there's younger people out here doing way more than I am? Like, I don't know, Emma Chamberlain's out here like bajillionaires. I mean, she's not a bajillionaire, but you know, she has her own business, she has her own podcast. I got my own podcast now. But she has had a very successful life, and I know that kind of happened to her all sort of like accidentally in a way. She was in the YouTube era kind of when I was, but it's like, I don't know. It's really hard for me to like look at these people and up and coming younger people, and it's like, damn, did I miss out? And then there's also the thing of like regret. Looking back on my younger years, I'm like, there's so much I could have done to be somewhere different here. And I fully believe everything happens for a reason, and you know, you're exactly where you're meant to be, where you're supposed to be. But yeah, it's challenging. I don't know. It's very confusing, and I feel sad sometimes. It's like I feel sad. I don't know. I feel sad for my younger self sometimes because I was so hard on her. And I feel even mean to myself now because I'm looking back at my younger self, like in my head thinking like, why didn't you do all of these things? Like you, I don't know, just like during COVID, I was like, damn, I was just trying to survive. And there were a lot of people like literally booming in their like online careers and going viral and stuff. And I was like, I really missed out on that. And I could have been doing it. I'm doing it again, you guys. I'm doing it right now. I'm being mean to myself. Stop it. I'm actually, I'm drinking Emma Chamberlain's coffee right now. I love her. I really do. But anyways, I want to I would like to take a more positive approach now because I feel like I've just kind of been negative and complaining a little bit. Aging is a beautiful thing. Like all of the weird societal expectations and everything else that I talked about out the window for now. Aging is beautiful. And it is a part of life, and we should embrace it and accept it. And like, I mean, you're gaining, and like, instead of thinking about like, I don't know, losing future years because you're aging, or like losing value, losing desirability, becoming older, whatever, physically aging, it's a beautiful thing. You're gaining experiences. Like, I've been on this earth for 25 years. Think of all of the amazing, incredible things that I've done in these past 25 years, and all of the memories I've made, and all of the people I've met, and all of the things I've done and achieved, and all the food I've eaten, and music I've listened to. And I mean, like, think of all of the other years to come, hopefully. All of the other memories that I can make and experiences I can have, and people I'm going to be able to meet, and conversations I'm going to have. And you don't know what the future holds. And literally, like, the time is now. Like, that is the only time that exists, and I fully believe that. And yeah, aging is beautiful. It's gaining wisdom and experience and knowledge, and it's creating memories, and I think that that's a great way to look at it. And I mean, as cheesy as it sounds, when people are like, oh, like, you know, every wrinkle on your face is from an emotion and or expression, or like, I have like crazy little crow's feet and like smile lines, and like, that's because I'm fucking smiling all the time. Like, that's amazing. If I never smiled, I wouldn't have any lines on my face, but I wouldn't be very happy now, would I? And also, there's always Botox, okay? I'm not encouraging you guys to get Botox, but I have had just a little bit between my eyebrows, and I don't know, like, I genuinely, it's like a weird fine line where it's like you want to embrace aging, but you also want to still feel confident in yourself, and whatever you have to do to feel that way, do it by all means. I think maybe one last little thing that I want to talk about, and it's also a positive note, is I've heard so many experiences and firsthand stories from people who they didn't realize sort of like their life's purpose, or like become successful or turn their life around until they were like in their 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s. Like, there is so much out there and so much more to life. And just because you're in your 20s right now and you feel absolutely lost and like there's no future for you, you don't have your shit together, guess what? Most people in your life that you know of that are way older than you felt the exact same way. And yeah, of course, there's the people who like became millionaires when they were 24 or whatever. But for the most part, like, everyone's on their own journey. And there's people where they've, after becoming retired and living their whole entire life, it seems like their life's over at that point, and then they decide to start a business and it becomes like a multi-million dollar business, sorry. Or like, I don't know, like you have a terrible marriage for like the first 30 years and then you divorce them and then you meet the actual love of your life and you like have all these adventures together, and I don't know, it's just like everything happens for a reason. And it's never too late to start. Also, like, it's never too late. You're never too old to do something. And I always felt like, because I didn't go to school, I've always had this like back and forth thing in my head where I'm like, should I go to college? But then a couple years ago, I was like, it's too late. Like, everyone I know who went to college is already graduated now. But like my friend, like I said, who's going to school now, it's like, and then I have another friend who she's, I think, 30. And she just, she already had her career, already had a degree in something, but it wasn't something she was passionate about. And then she realized, you know what, I actually have an entirely different passion and I'm not going to be happy if I don't pursue it. And so she's going back to school. She was going back to school, taking classes to pursue this passion of hers. And a lot of people would be like, oh, she's 30. Like, that's way too old to be doing that. She should be settling down, getting married, having kids. And it's like, fuck that. No. It's never too late to do what you want to do to achieve your goals. And you could look at that also and be like, okay, well, if it's never too late, then I'm going to start now, because a lot of people use the excuse of like, it's too late, like that time has passed. And I don't buy into that bullshit. I really don't, because I don't know, that's how I felt a lot of the time. I'm always like changing up my social media, and I'm like, is it too late for me to like become a certified personal trainer and start posting fitness stuff? Like, I should have started when I was 20, because I see all these girls who are like ripped and they're like 21, and I'm like, damn, that could have been me. And I'm 25, like still trying to get there and like trying to accomplish my goals and figure out my whole gym workout and routine and really like, getting it kind of perfected. But I'm telling you right now, it's never too late. I still want to learn a new language. I still want to get better at surfing. I still want to stretch more and meditate and journal. And guess what? I still can. Because just because I didn't start when I was younger doesn't mean I can't start now. I do highly encourage you, though, if you are younger, to do the things that you want to do now, just because why not? Like, there are a lot of things that I, like, even though I'm like, it's never too late to start and like, I don't want to regret things, there are things that I do regret not doing back when I was younger. But like at the same time, I'm here now, right? And I'm where I'm supposed to be. So I don't know. There's always multiple perspectives on everything. But I think at the end of the day, again, age is just a feeling. Age is not a feeling. Age is just a number. It doesn't mean anything. And wherever you are in your 20s right now, even if you're not even in your 20s, it's okay. You're not old. And even if you are old, even if you're in your, 70s, whatever, you're not. And for example, like my parents, my mom had me when she was 40. So that's pretty old to have a kid, I would say. Like, that's a pretty late age to have a child. And like I said, my brothers were already older than me. I was in an accident. And my dad was even older. He must have been like 44. I don't know how much older he is. Maybe 43. I don't know. But my mom had me when she was 40. And sometimes I think about, I'm like, damn, my mom lived 40 years of her life and I didn't even exist. She had a whole life. 40 years, that's a long time. 40 years of her life and I didn't even exist. And then she had me, and then her life changed because all of a sudden I was this new person into her life, and that's when my life began. So I've only known my mom since, that part of her life. I didn't know that whole other part of her life. It's like she's lived so many different lives. And we don't think about those things because everything kind of just blends into one. And then also for my parents, like, my parents are like kind of older, in their 60s. My dad's almost 70, and they certainly do not act like it. Like, they are always active and healthy and going on trips and going hiking and playing with the grandkids, and like they're just very active and energetic. And I always look at them kind of as an example. I'm like, just because you're almost 70 does not mean your life is over, does not mean you can't still do the things you did when you were younger. My dad just drove out to the forest to chop some wood for winter. My mom's hanging out with the grandkids right now, watching them, and they don't act their age at all. And my mom always tells me, like, I don't really feel like my age. I still feel so young. And like, that's what it is. It's a feeling. It's whatever you feel. So if you allow yourself to feel old and use it as kind of this excuse and feel sad and upset about it, then you're kind of, you're allowing that to affect you, when in reality, age does not matter. And at the end of the day, you don't have your age tattooed on your forehead, right? Like, it doesn't matter. If people didn't know your age, would that affect their perspective on you? Like, would that change anything about you? If you were a different age, what would that change? You know, like if you were a couple years younger, a couple years older, I don't know, if someone walked up to you right now and was like, oh, actually, like, we got your birth certificate wrong, we got your birthday wrong, you're actually 3 years older than we thought. What would that affect? Like, what would that change? Why would that change anything? You would be a little bit like, what the fuck? But, like, in reality, like, what would it change, you know? Like, it shouldn't affect anything. So, I don't really know. This has just been a topic that's been on my mind lately, just because first of all, I felt kind of alone when I felt old, because I kind of remember, like, talking to James about it, and whenever I tell anyone, like, oh my God, I feel, like, old, like, I'm, like, not that young anymore, and people are always like, oh my God, you're 25, shut the fuck up, like, you are not old. And it's like, yeah, I know I'm not, but also, like, can someone please validate my feelings? Like, I feel older than I used to. There, I'll put it that way. I finally feel like my age has caught up to me. I finally feel like, oh fuck, I'm not young anymore, even though I am. Oh my God, I feel like this episode made no sense, and I'm very sorry that I just word vomited everywhere, but it's just been something that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. Hopefully some of you can relate, and I didn't just exploit myself on here for nothing. But no, I actually feel better, because I feel like these episodes are going to be kind of like therapy for me in a way, because I kind of started off this podcast by, like, word vomiting and explaining all my feelings and kind of being upset about it. And then I also, like, went down the little positive path and was like, actually, everything's totally fine. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And I think it's something that I needed to hear today. So hopefully some of you guys needed that as well. Anyways, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. Hopefully that was entertaining, at least somewhat. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure to give it a 5-star rating. That would mean the world to me. And yeah, go follow me, I guess. Am I supposed to promote myself at the end of these? I don't really know. Go follow me if you want to, and if you don't already, because why not? Maybe don't. I don't know. Do it if you want. Don't do it if you don't want to. All right, I'll talk to you guys in the next one.